Hello everybody, this is Cameron Giardini with Giardini Medicare, where we aim to make your transition to Medicare just a little bit easier. And this video, the way that we're going to make that transition easier is we're going to talk about how different prescription deductibles work when it comes to Medicare. So you may be very familiar with what a deductible is, but you may not know exactly how the prescription deductibles work when it comes to different Medicare plans. So we're going to talk in this video about Part D and its deductibles, and then also how the Part D or the prescription deductible will work if you're in a Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan. So this is really helpful if you are starting Medicare and you want to learn how this works, or if you're on Medicare, you're not quite sure how it works, you're changing plans. We get questions about this all the time, so we wanted to take some time and just address how these work compared to a normal medical deductible. So let's dive right in and learn more. The first thing we'll do is talk about what a deductible typically is or how it is typically defined. You'll see here that at the bottom for the North American version, a deductible is a specified amount of money that the insured must pay before an insurance company will pay a claim. So you may be familiar with this based on your pre-65 years before being on Medicare, where you have to pay the full amount of something before your insurance company will chip in. So now let's actually get into it a little bit more in this video and talk about how that traditional definition of a deductible is a little bit different when it comes to prescription drug coverage with Medicare. Now that we've gone over what the meaning of a deductible is, let's just go through real quick and talk about the fact that most drug plans, whether it's Part D or Medicare Advantage, in Michigan for this example, do have a prescription drug deductible. So in this, I will show you right off of Medicare.gov that the lowest premium plans, you can see going from $13.20 upwards, almost all of them have a deductible of $435. The reason they all happen to be $435 is because for 2020, that is the maximum allowable amount set by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So a plan cannot have higher than a $435 deductible. Now, some plans at a lower cost will have a smaller one. You can see here for $21, this plan will have a $315 deductible. And we'll talk more about exactly what all this means. I know it's pretty confusing up front, but just because you have a $435 deductible does not mean it will act like the technical definition that we just covered for what a deductible is. And then you may be thinking to yourself, well, I'll just get a plan without a deductible. I'd rather, save some money, not pay $435. But what happens is you can see this $13 plan, if we go to the lowest deductible, that will actually go up to $62. So for this zip code in Michigan, and for really any plan in Michigan, the lowest cost plan you can get that has no deductible is $62 per month. So it becomes one of those things where, is it really worth it to spend that extra money to have no deductible? And really, is the deductible anything to worry about in the first place? So I'll go more into that now, and we'll show you exactly how a deductible works for Part D and Medicare Advantage plans. Now we've covered what a deductible actually is, and we've also talked about the fact that most prescription drug plans in 2020 will have some form of drug deductible. So now let's talk about exactly how the deductible is designed to work with your prescription drug benefits. So you'll notice that this is not going to be the same as what you may be thinking as a traditional deductible, where you pay the full price for everything and then your insurance kicks in. I'll zoom in right here because this is the most important part, what I'm going to show you right in this upper right-hand corner. And this is an example for one of those plans that I just showed you on Medicare.gov. It does have a $435 deductible, you can see right here, and that's even for Michigan. However, this deductible only applies for medications that are Tier 3 through 5. So that means that if you are taking Tier 1 or 2 medications, which are classified by the plan as generics, you are not going to have to pay any money towards that $435 deductible. So we'll get a little bit more into detail going forward, But again, if you do have a prescription drug deductible, check with your plan because this is not for every plan, but it is a majority of plans. The deductible will only count for medications tier 3 through 5, and they will not count for medications tier 1 and 2. Now that's for Part D, and that, remember, if you have Part D, you have a standalone Medigap plan or Medicare supplement. If you choose to get a Medicare Advantage plan, you'll notice it works very similarly. So right here, this is one of the more popular Advantage plans in Michigan, and same thing with the Part D. The deductible is only $100 in this case, so it is lower than the $435. However, only tiers 3 through 5 count towards the deductible. So those are your brand name medications, your specialty medications, or the medications that the plan classifies as generic, tier 1 and 2. That does not count towards your deductible, so you just pay the low copay right away. I just talked a lot about different tiers and what they mean for the deductible, so I wanted to clear up some potential confusion and show you what I mean by tier 1, tier 2, and so on. So you can see here, there's typically 5 tiers when it comes to medications for prescription drug plans. Tiers 1 and 2 are usually generic medications, and tiers 3 through 5 are the more expensive brand name medications and specialty medications. It's really important to know where your medications fall on the tier structure. So if you do have questions, it's always in the plan formulary for a company. That is basically a long list of medications that shows what medication is covered at what tier. If you do have questions on it, feel free to let us know, give us a call, or you can check out some of our videos that we've done for plan formularies. But the reason, again, that this is so important to know is that the tier 1 and 2 generic medications will not count towards your deductible, so you don't have to pay full price for those medications, whereas the tier 3 through 5, the brand name and the specialty medications, you do have to pay the full price of those medications before your copays over here will kick in. And again, the last thing I really want to hit on, and I'll talk about next, is that just because a medication is generic, in the sense that it is a generic version of a different medication, does not mean that it's going to fall under the tier 1 and tier 2 generic definition for a plan. And every plan is different. One plan might have a medication as generic, and the next might have that same exact medication as a brand name medication. So now let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Just because a medication is technically generic does not mean that it actually falls into the tier 1 and tier 2 generic category for a Part D or Medicare Advantage company. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to GoodRx, or I'm actually at GoodRx right now. And if you haven't seen our other videos on why you should or how to use GoodRx, then go check those out. But basically, it's just a great one-stop shop to find out if your medication could be cheaper, just either paying cash or using a coupon. So with that being said, let's check out a generic medication that I've run into before, which is imatinib. And you can see right here, you just search your medication in the search bar for GoodRx, and what pops up is right here at this bar, you can see there's generic. So imatinib right here is actually the generic version of a prescription called Gleevec. So everything that you're seeing on this page is a generic price and a generic medication. And if you go here, you can see the retail price at somewhere like Costco. Actually, I clicked on Ralph's. Let me go to Costco. And you can see here the estimated retail price is $10,800. With a coupon, it's $240. And again, that is a generic medication. So if you go here, I'll switch it to Gleevec, which is the actual brand. You will see the difference in the price. Now at Costco, the retail is $14,000 per month, and the coupon price is $10,000. So yes, imatinib is cheaper and it is a generic version of Gleevec, but just because it is a generic drug does not mean you're going to get it at a tier 1 or tier 2 price like you would other low-cost generic medications like a statin or maybe a high blood pressure medication. So I'll go back and show you what imatinib would look like on a prescription drug plan with Medicare. So you can see that just because it is generic, it does not mean you will get it at a low copay. You will still have to pay the deductible for this medication. We just saw how imatinib is technically a generic medication in the sense that is the generic version of Gleevec. However, that does not mean that the prescription drug company or the Part D provider determines that medication to also be generic. So you can see here, imatinib, the same generic we just talked about, is a Tier 5 medication. And a Tier 5 medication is actually a specialty medication. So it will count towards the deductible, and it is not classified in any way by the Part D plan as a generic medication. So now you're probably just wondering, okay, what the heck does all this mean? Am I going to have to pay the deductible? Am I not going to have to pay the deductible? What's Tier 1? What's Tier 2? So I'll try to wrap it up here and show you a quick example of a different list of medications. So again, this is straight from Medicare.gov, and it will show you how the plans work with the drug deductible and how they interact having different tier medications. So here you'll see 4 different medications. We have atorvastatin, Eliquis, imatinib, and lisinopril. There's a couple things you might notice here, and the first is actually that atorvastatin and lisinopril are both the exact same if you count before the deductible and after the deductible. So the reason for that is that these medications, as you can see, atorvastatin is Tier 1 and lisinopril is also Tier 1. So if you remember back towards the beginning of the video, we talked about the deductible only applies to medications that are Tier 3 through 5 for most plans. Again, it's not every plan, but check with your plan if that is the case. And if that is the case, this is how it works. You go into the pharmacy and you go to pick up atorvastatin and lisinopril first thing in the year, and you know that they're Tier 1 medications. You pay the copay right away. So you pay $1 even with the deductible, and you pay $1 after the deductible, because technically you're never going to meet the deductible since you don't have to pay towards it. You get the copay right away. However, let's get rid of this and let's talk about the other medications on this list. So if I go back down, you'll notice that Eliquis is a Tier 3 and imatinib is a Tier 5. If you have any questions about what tier your medication is, please let us know. We can look in the formulary, or we can at least help you decipher your formulary to show you where to find this information. So if you are going back here, assuming again Tier 3 through 5, those are both going to count towards the deductible for your prescription drug plan. So right here, before the deductible, you pay the full price. So obviously, if you do have a deductible of $435, you're not going to have to pay the full $8,000 for the imatinib, but it's just showing you to illustrate that you're going to have to pay the full price of the medication before you've reached $435. So if you're just having Eliquis, for example, let's say it's January 1st and you have to go get a refill of Eliquis. Your Eliquis, you pay the full amount. So you're going to have to pay the full retail cost. You're going to meet the deductible of $435. So now your deductible is met after your first refill of the year in January. After that, in February, your cost is going to go down to the copay of $35 for the medication. And again, if you just get atorvastatin and you just get lisinopril for the whole year, as long as you're only filling Tier 1 and Tier 2 medications, you're only ever going to have to pay the copay designated by your plan. So this is why we get people that say, I had a deductible, or I had a generic medication, why is it costing me so much? Technically, it could be a brand name medication or a higher tier medication for that company. Also, you may never realize you have a deductible because let's say you're filling lisinopril the whole time. You could do that for 2 years, only fill lisinopril, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, you need a shingles vaccine. Now, a shingles vaccine is typically a tier 3 medication. So, going back to our chart, a tier 3 medication you pay the full price for, and then all of a sudden, you're sitting there at the pharmacy owing $200 because you didn't realize that you did have a deductible the whole time. And that's because, again, your lisinopril was already $1. It's never been more than $1. The full price is $4, but you've been paying $1. So hopefully this kind of makes sense. Again, it's just something that tends to bring a lot of confusion in the Medicare space, especially in the beginning of the year after plans change. This is also a really good reason why you should look at your plan every single year, because if you don't know what tier your medications are, you don't know how that's going to impact your deductible or your costs for next year. So if you do have further questions about how any of this works, please let us know at Giardini Medicare. Give us a call, send us an email. We're happy to help. It's a very confusing topic. So if you have any further questions, please let us know. But other than that, have a great day.